Welcome to another episode of Come Back Stronger, where we bring you stories from around the world of people who have faced adversity, overcome adversity, and have come back stronger. My name is Jimmy Fasig. I'm here with my law partner, Carrie Roan, and we are here to introduce you to Ryan Griffis. Ryan has overcome the challenge of alcoholism, and he has become a TikTok influencer with 1.5 million followers by doing what? By his journey. What am I trying to say, Carrie?
By documenting
his journey. There we go. By documenting his journey on overcoming alcoholism.
Yeah.
And so what I love about Ryan is the fact that he is so authentic. Yeah. And I think that's why people relate to him. So what do you think about Ryan?
I'm excited to see how he turns a negative into a positive.
Yes.
You know, he was young, went into the Army, was still an alcoholic. I mean, faced a lot of challenges, but made the decision he was going to stop and is documenting the whole thing so that everybody's in his situation can see it by video. They can hear his words, and it's all about positivity. That's what I can't wait.
You know what I love about it is that nobody's perfect. And he embraces the fact that he's not perfect. And not only does he embrace it, he says, I have this challenge that I'm going to overcome. I'm going to bring you along my journey so that maybe by overcoming this challenge with you, there are other people that can benefit from what I'm going through.
It takes a lot of courage,
yes,
doesn't it?
Yes. And so people caught on to that. 1.5 million followers is not easy to get on TikTok, but now that he's got the followers, he got the following, he has turned that basically into a career, which you can do.
And he's spreading such a positive message.
And he's spreading a positive message. Yeah. It's all about positivity. So, and you know, I'm all about the positivity too. So this is good stuff. We are very excited to introduce you to him. We're going to go to a commercial, and when we come back, we're going to hear the first part of the interview with Mr. Griffis. And you know what the insurance company offered him? $5,000. Really? He's completely blind. And they offer him $5,000. Ask him to sign a release.
To a lot of people, especially when they're hurting and when they're down and when they're vulnerable, $5,000 is a life-changing amount of money. Yeah. And they're not looking at the value of what has been lost. They're not looking at what it would take to make that person whole, which is our job. Yeah. That's our job. Their job isn't. Their job is to save the insurance company money. Right. And they look at this person and they go, I bet $5,000 would get your full attention. Right. And they come in and they dangle it with a settlement release, and then once you sign it, you're done. You can't come back to us and ask us to wave a magic wand and make that go away. That can't go away.
My client didn't accept the $5,000. We took him all the way to trial. We got a $5 million verdict. Welcome back to Come Back Stronger, where we are introducing you to TikTok influencer Ryan Griffis, whose channel is Mr. Griffis. And so here's the first part of the interview. Can't wait for you to see it.
Ryan Griffis, better known to TikTok fans everywhere as Mr. Griffis. Thank you very much for being with us this afternoon.
I appreciate it. This is an amazing experience and opportunity.
So our viewers know Ryan grew up in McCreary County, Kentucky, originally Smithtown. I lived there for 20 years working on the newspaper, so I was very familiar with Ryan as he grew up, and of course followed his story, and it's just the incredible journey that he's had throughout his life, some major turning points in his life, and just had a little mini documentary debut on YouTube called The Rise of Mr. Griffis, and I saw that and I says, we got to get Ryan on the show, and he graciously accepted. So here we are.
Yes.
So Ryan, I mentioned, growing up in McCreary County, and you say in the documentary that you had a kind of a rough childhood. Do you kind of want to talk a little bit about growing up?
Yeah. So for me, I think at an early age, I just found myself in a lot of trouble. My parents did split up, transitioning into high school. So it was a rough time for me. I mean, a lot of people knew the story, but the backstory of it, I grew up very poor. And then I have an older brother as well that pretty much set the reputation for us going into high school with our last name being a bad name, which led for me going into Macquarie Central, second day of high school. I got into a fight, was in the principal's office day 2. But going into that, I think I was using all the energy that I had that I was dealing with personally on the inside. And it was an outburst. It was nothing more. And looking back on it now, I think I just was that kid that was found in a lot of trouble, and I just needed some support, which the principal at that time gave, and it really changed my life and paved the way forward to where I'm at now.
Yeah, and talking about the principal, Miss Privet, of course, I know her very well through my years with the newspaper. She tells a story that fight the second day in high school and kind of just dragged you into the office, but that was a major turning point in your life. Want to talk a little bit about that day and that relationship?
Yeah, it was a turning point. She was the first individual that I had that I really felt like somebody within the school system generally cared for me outside of school. And she set up where I had to meet her every other day and kind of just talk and discuss. And that's something that I had never had prior before that. It's just somebody sitting down, especially the principal, sitting down with you and just generally wanting to know how you're doing. So out of respect, it kind of switched that mindset for me. And then she had me transition to ROTC in high school, which was an incredible experience. That's where I really learned a lot about myself, something that I could push forward, have some goals. And then by the end of my junior year, I was the class battalion commander going into my senior year.
Yeah, and one thing that most people don't know, McCurry County is a small community. You're talking it's an entire county, but there's only like 18,000 people. Over 70% of the land is national forest, so there's not a lot to do. So growing up in that environment, it's very, very rural. Kids going out in the woods, bonfires, and that's kind of where your problem with drinking started, right?
It was. So, like I said, I found myself in a lot of trouble throughout middle school and high school, and it kind of led. So when my parents split, my dad, he drank very heavily. So it was something that was kind of the norm that I really didn't think was an issue, and it kind of just trickled down. I started drinking in high school, and then off to college, and then I went on a deployment, and then after we got back from the deployment, it kind of just increasingly got worse. But what really changed my perspective and wanted me to do better is I have a younger brother as well that has always looked up to me. And he was pretty much my best friend, so everything that I was doing, he was doing as well. And so when I realized that he had a problem is when I realized that I was the problem and I had to change it so he would follow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you grew up in a culture where it was just the norm, going out on weekends and grabbing a case of beer and just sitting out in the woods around a bonfire. And that's just a generational thing,
Absolutely.
And I mentioned, Miss Privet was a turning point in your life, but there was another one that was a little bit before that, but it's still a major point in your life is meeting your now wife, but then girlfriend, Amber, and her family. Want to talk a little bit about how they helped you along?
Absolutely. I am very fortunate. When I was transitioning into high school, when my parents got a divorce, Amber kind of came in at the right time, and it gave me a sense of hope that I had with her, that I was falling in love with this girl, but I didn't know anything about it. And not only her, but her family as well. Her mom and her dad has helped me tremendously in everything that I've been able to accomplish. These are two individuals that no matter what I go through or what I've been through, they're always there. They're always supportive. They've always had my back. They've been to every graduation, every ceremony. And those two individuals was the turning point for me. I really needed that father figure in my life at that time. And Amber's father was able to be that individual.
Yeah. And then of course you're sergeant in ROTC, and I'm sure that was another strong father figure in your life growing up. And then, of course, he's transitioning, from high school and college, and then going right into getting deployed in Iraq. I mean, I imagine that was kind of a culture shock for you.
It definitely was, because I've always thought about it, but I didn't think I would find myself in some of the situations that I would be in on deployment. So for me, it was a turning point after I got back, because a lot of stuff that happened, and I am considered a leader in the military as a active duty captain. And you don't see a lot of people that are very outspoken with their troubles, their trials, and stuff that they're going to. And TikTok and my platforms were kind of my out, after my brother and I went sober, I just started being vocal about it, and it got a lot of traction. I was meeting people, and I was messaging people and talking to people that I had no idea, but something that I said or maybe a video that they seen gave them a little bit of hope and a little bit of motivation. So at that point, it was something that was super personal for me. I just kept posting and posting, trying to change individuals' lives.
Yeah, and we'll get more into your TikTok channel and what it means for you and for other people here when we come back from our break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
What a real guy.
I've got tears. I love him.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love him.
He's so awesome.
Yeah.
My favorite part was when he said that my younger brother,
Yeah.
I realized my younger brother had a problem. Then I realized I was the problem.
Yeah, I can't even talk about that. It just makes me tear up.
And that was a catalyst that moved him to change, to make these big changes for
Yeah.
himself. I always say the power of love is, you're choked up.
It really
I
does,
get it,
you know?
man. The power
Yeah.
of love moves mountains. And
Yeah.
that's what happened here.
Just like the power of Amber's parents, the love that they have for him has moved him to do what he's doing and given him the hope that he can succeed in changing other people's lives. You know, Amber's dad has become his own father figure.
Ryan's.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, his girlfriend's dad.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, his girlfriend's
Oh,
dad
okay,
has
gotcha.
become his father
Right,
figure.
yes.
And that love that his girlfriend's dad is showing for him
Okay, yes.
is what's motivating him, which I love. And I want to say one more thing.
Yes.
Greg Bird is our producer who did this.
Yeah.
And I see you, Greg, coming for my job because you've done a really good interview. I'm mesmerized. I think you're doing a great job.
He's doing a
But
great job.
Don't come for my job.
Yeah, so the other thing that I think is really powerful is the mentors in his life
Yeah.
that have actually guided him and changed him.
Yeah.
And we see that over and over in comeback stories, is that one of the critical elements of a great comeback story is almost always a mentor, somebody that encouraged you, somebody that encouraged the person to overcome their obstacles.
There's always that one person.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of interviews over the years, and usually it's law enforcement or a teacher or a parent. And in this one, it was the principal, and it was the principal who got him into the ROTC.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is amazing. I
So
love
anyway,
it.
we're going to go to a commercial. When we come back, we're going to hear the second part of the interview with Ryan Griffis.
You know what else I think makes women a little bit better at this job as trial lawyers is our ability to communicate. You know, there's an old joke that women say 10,000 words to every 10 words that a man says. But the success in this job is based on building relationships and communicating. We're trying to present our evidence. We're trying to communicate to our clients, communicate to insurance companies, all just to get a deal done, to get our clients money for pain and suffering and lost wages and medical bills. And I think when you're a better communicator and when you're used to communicating like that, you just do a better job.
One of the unique advantages I think we have as women lawyers is, of course, other women are going to feel comfortable sharing things with us, but I also find that men are often more comfortable talking to a woman about really delicate things, the things that make them feel like they're not in control and they're not doing right by their families, or they're just not who they think they should be in the world. I use every asset I've got, and empathy's a big one.
Welcome back to Come Back Stronger, where we are interviewing Mr. Ryan Griffis, who's known as Mr. Griffis on TikTok. He's a TikTok influencer with 1.5 million followers, has overcome alcoholism and brought people along on the journey. Here's the second part of his interview.
All right, so Ryan, like you said, you were deployed in Iraq, you come back. How much was alcohol part of your life at that point?
So at that point, and I think this tends to happen to a lot of individuals that come back. You're in a survival mode, and definitely a mindset. So when you get back, you kind of just want to let loose and relax. And a lot of people turn to alcohol to do that, and that's kind of where I found myself at. And I didn't realize how bad my younger brother was drinking while I was gone. Like I said before, him and I had always been best friends, and I've always been there for him. We've done everything together. So as I left, it was kind of that point for him turning to alcohol as well. So we had a New Year's Eve party where we're all drinking, and for some reason I had it felt in my heart that I wanted to go sober, and because I seen the struggles that he was having. And I never asked him to go sober, but it was in front of our whole family, and I said, I think I'm going to go sober for a whole year. No intentions at he was going to do it. I just had hopes that he would. And shortly, 10 days later, he jumped on the train, and we both ended up going sober for a whole year.
And not long after that, you started posting your videos on TikTok on Mr. Griffis as your handle. What was kind of the inspiration to do that? I mean, a lot of people say, yeah, I'm going to go sober, but here you're documenting it and you're bearing your soul to everybody.
Absolutely. So, I'm always the top to be held accountable. And there was a lot of people I knew on this platform at that time. So I wanted to be vocal about it. Being an active duty soldier in the military as a captain, I just let myself out there to expose myself, my troubles, my trials, everything that I was going through. And I didn't know how it was going to turn out. I didn't know if the military was going to frown upon it, if they were going to be for it. And unfortunately, it was one of those things where I had to keep doing it. Although it was not in my comfort zone, I just kept doing it and kept doing it. And then I received 10, 15, 20, 25,000 messages just from people all across the world that something that I had said or something that they had seen in my story is just inspiring them.
You're not one of these TikTokers that are, taking off your shirt or doing anything crazy. You're just sharing your story, positive vibes, positive messaging, responding to questions. I love that going through your channel, just people messaging you and you answering honestly and openly. How does that make you feel that you've got these people that are responding to you, to the message that you're sending out?
It's still kind of a culture shock for me, especially coming from a small town, being here on posts. I get recognized by a lot of people that kind of want to come up and talk and tell me their stories and take pictures. And it's just so humbling that something that I've said or something that they've seen is giving them a little bit of hope, a little bit of inspiration and some motivation. And it's just a humbling experience.
Yeah. And of course, you're still in active duty with the U.S. Army, but, as you can tell by your setup, you're taking the TikTok thing seriously, and we were talking before, you do this all by yourself, pretty much, you and Amber. You don't have a team behind you or anything like that.
Absolutely. And a lot of brands that I've talked to in organizations, they're just kind of surprised, because with the platforms and those numbers that as you see, it's typically a whole team that's behind you. And I've sent every email, I've done every video, Amber's done the editing, we've done it all by ourselves.
Yeah, that's amazing. And do you see this continuing to grow? What's next for Mr. Griffis?
Absolutely. It is a big change and something that I just have to get used to. So we've discussed getting out of the military as well. I don't know which way God is wanting me to go, but either way, I'm happy if I do this on the side or if I stay in. No matter what, I'm going to be heard around the world, and I'm going to keep doing this.
Yeah, that's amazing. And of course, another way you're being heard, and mentioned her a couple times before, but your lovely wife Amber, very talented singer and artist, and she's now kind of trying to do a music career, isn't she?
She is, and that's something that's just been since social media, since we started, it's opened up so many doors and opportunities for us. I was able to link in with a friend that I found off of TikTok that was a producer. Him and I sat down and was writing the song, and Amber sung it, and we kind of wrote it with our story and what we've been through and our struggles. And then we shot a music video back in Kentucky to kind of get us back rooted to how we grew up, and it's been an amazing experience.
Yeah, I love the video, and of course I haven't been back to McCreary County in over 2 years, but watching that video and seeing all these places, I recognize that. I recognize the dairy bar. I know the bridge that you're running over, and of course you guys have two beautiful young little daughters that you're bringing up.
Absolutely, we have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and these two little girls, they've changed my life. I missed the birth of my first daughter, and then my second one, I was deployed, and I was out roughly the first year. She had her first birthday, was learning how to walk. So I say it all the time. The service member, they do have their job and their duties, but the spouses, they definitely hold down the fort. And Amber's done that throughout my military service. She's raised these two little girls. They're so smart, beautiful, and I love them to death. So
I know, like I said, you shot the music video in Kentucky and most of the documentary. And I know McCreary County had a big old billboard put up honoring you. What's kind of the reaction when you go back to McCreary County?
I've still not. It's still not sunk in for me. I see my face and my videos all over the place on that billboard, documentaries, music videos, all this is dropping, and this is how I've always been. And I think that's what the viewers and the individuals that follow me enjoy, is no matter how many followers I get, I'm not going to change. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be real. And I stick to that because I'm grounded. I'm humbled. This is an amazing opportunity that I'm getting to go through. And it's amazing, honestly.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of the McCreary County in you, is that there's the people there are very, very grounded. It's a small community, but it's very tight knit, and I know that going back there, it's just like stepping back like nothing's happened. So go ahead, give a little plug for your channel again, and where people can find it, and where people can find Amber's music.
Yeah, so right now we have all of our platforms for me personally under Mr. Griffis on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm under Ryan Griffis on YouTube, and all of our music videos and our documentaries listed across our channels on YouTube.
Yeah, and of course the name of the documentary, if you want to search it on YouTube, is The Rise of Mr. Griffis, and you got the spelling back there. But Ryan, I definitely want to thank you for taking the time out of your day. I want to thank you for sharing your story. But above all, I want to thank you for being yourself and everything that you're doing, using your platform, using your story, and inspiring others. And that's what we're all about here at Come Back Stronger.
Well, I really appreciate it as well for you having me. And I've said it, if God's willing to wake me up each and every day with air in my lungs and a voice to speak, then I plan to do so. And helping individuals and being just a vessel for those individuals that are in need and struggling, and maybe something that I've went through helps those individuals. And I'll just continue to do it, and I won't stop.
Well, that's great, Ryan. Thank you so much.
Wow. If there's always someone, if you're going through any kind of struggle, whether it's alcoholism or an injury or anything, there's always somebody out there that's also going through that. And I think it's important for people to know that you're not alone.
Right.
You're not alone in this struggle, and you can find people, you can reach out to people. And the other thing I think that is a big takeaway for this is, if you're going through struggles, talk about it.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to reach out and talk about it, because other people are probably going through it too. And by talking about it, you can help them.
Right, I think that was really neat. He talked about two very strong emotions, which I wanted to point out. One is hope, and the other one is humility.
Yes.
And he's found hope in so many different ways. Mm-hmm. And I think he's providing hope for so many people that are battling the disease of alcoholism.
Yeah.
I love that about him. And then his humility is so admirable. And I think when people are humble and they're grounded, life is so much better.
I wholeheartedly agree. One of the things I wrote down is humbled.
Is it?
And then I also wrote down the power of authenticity. Because people respond when you are honest, when you're authentic, when you're humble, when you're grounded. People respond to that, and they want to help you, they want to encourage you, they want to uplift you. And so he has been lifted up on a pedestal because of his humility, which is fascinating.
And he refuses to let his head blow up about it.
Yes.
Which I think is great. I mean, he's kind of shot to stardom and popularity and TikTok fame, and he refuses to believe into the hype. You know, which I think makes them even better. Yeah,
100%. So we are going to go to another commercial, but when we come back, we have so much more to talk about. We'll see you then.
It's also important to have lawyers who understand the juries.
100%.
So where you grow up in a place and you understand what makes people from that place proud. Mm-hmm. And in the Panhandle, what is that? Well, we have the world's widest sand beaches. Mm-hmm. The beautiful nature of the place, but also the strong connection to the armed forces.
Yes. It's important to hire a lawyer who understands the culture of where you're going to be and has an idea of the kind of people who will be on the jury should you have to try the case. And you better believe the insurance companies who will be deciding the value of the case, they look into that.
I once had a case where the attorney was from Chicago, and he came down to this area in the Panhandle, and he kept talking about Wakulla, but he didn't know how to say Wakulla. And it came out all different sorts of ways, and I thought, oh man, if you get in front of a jury down here.
Welcome back to Come Back Stronger, where we just heard the interviews of Ryan Griffis, who is a TikTok influencer with 1.5 million followers. He's going all around the world, and he is changing people's lives and helping people overcome alcoholism and just basically spreading a positive message. Carrie, what were your big takeaways?
One of my biggest takeaways is that he leads by example.
Yes.
Which is so important. He does it in his life with his brother. He does it in his military life, being a captain in the U.S. Army. And I think it's so important that it's not just our words, it's not just what we want people to see, but it's what we're actually doing that leads by example.
Yes.
And we can do that every day. You don't have to be a TikTok superstar with 1.5 million followers. You can do it every day by setting little examples throughout the day for maybe your kids or your coworkers or your law partners or whoever's in your life.
I think it's incredibly important is that the people in our lives, they're watching. They're watching and they're taking notes, and we are actually becoming part of them. When they witness us doing something, we become part of them. A lot of times it's monkey see, monkey do, our children. And it's so important to realize that every little action that we take, everything that comes out of our mouth, everything we do has a ripple effect that actually affects other people. And that's what Ryan did in this case, Mr. Griffis. What Mr. Griffis did in this case is he recognized that. He said, look, what I'm doing by continuing with my alcoholism is having a negative effect on my brother. And I don't want that. And so that took a lot of awareness. It takes a lot of awareness for someone to realize that it's not just about me. This is about the impact that I'm having on the rest of humanity by the actions that I take, by the words that I choose.
Right. And he's very real on his TikTok page. So he talks about anything and everything, and he doesn't hold back. Which is very admirable, because alcoholism is a horrible disease. And I'm sure he's fighting it every day. I mean, sobriety is not easy. People fight sobriety or they fight alcoholism for 30, 40 years.
Absolutely.
So, but he documents that journey, and he goes into the nitty gritty, the ugly, the hard, and he's just very open about it, which is very inspirational to me. I'm not an alcoholic, but I've got several family members who are alcoholics, and it's very inspirational to me that they can go watch him and learn from him.
Well, a lot of times when you're going through a struggle, or if somebody is going through a struggle, there are parts of that struggle that they want to hide, that they don't want people to know about. And that's one of the things about Ryan's message, is that he is putting it out there. So we love the story today. Stay tuned with us for next week, or tune in next week when we have another great comeback story of somebody that has overcome challenges and come back stronger. If you take the case to trial, then you could get a much bigger settlement, because then the insurance company that is defending the case, they have to take a real honest look at it. Sometimes they will settle on the courthouse steps. Sometimes they settle after you've picked a jury. Sometimes they settle after you've given your evidence. I had a case recently where the insurance company had basically offered $50,000. And then 2 months before the trial, we get a $2 million offer. We tried the case, we picked the jury, we put on 2 days worth of evidence, and it ends up settling for $3.7 million.
This defense attorney was drawing a hard line this entire time, saying that my client's injuries were not caused by this crash, which, if you look at the damage to the car, was definitely not true. And we take it 2 weeks before trial, we're ready to go, and they come in and they say, hey, would you accept $500,000 for this case? And they were offering almost nothing before. It's incredible.
I've listened to a defense attorney tell my client, you let this happen to you. I get very angry when I hear things like that. Holding people accountable for the wrongdoing, that's what we do. We make our clients whole. We try to help people get their lives back together. But whenever that is caused by someone who is a predator, I'm not talking about negligence, I'm talking about somebody who just decided they wanted something and took it. They get to